Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the Virginia election. Keep in mind, if you're in Virginia and eligible to vote, that is tomorrow, and people, even though Halloween's over, there will probably be some people crawling out of the graveyard to vote for Terry Mcauliffe, so you gotta make sure that your turnout is on point. Now, they're already making excuses. Preemptive, think about how much of a loser campaign you have to have when people are preemptively explaining why you lost before the race has been held. This is the case, it seems, for Mcauliffe fans. Now, this by no means that Youngkin definitely wins. It means that a race that everyone thought was a shoo-in for Mcauliffe is now in play. It's going in a direction that Mcauliffe camp is not happy with. I still give Mcauliffe one edge. This is important to state, and this has nothing to do with fortification or shenanigans of any kind. Early voting was already going on when Mcauliffe was inarguably considerably ahead. In early voting tallies, Mcauliffe will lead. If you're getting a late surge, though, for Youngkin, and he's ahead at all, and right now he's about a point ahead in the aggregate, in polls that tend to oversample Democrats, by the way, what this does show is a massive change in trajectory towards Youngkin away from Terry Mcauliffe. It's largely prefaced on his education comments, and parents are coming out in droves in order to protest him. The fact that it's right before the election means it's still fresh in people's minds when they go to pull the lever. I think there are a lot of people that are very angry, and anger is a really good way to get people out at the polls. Anger and fear of the other guy predominate, I think, among many of the people that will end up voting for Youngkin. He's got a better than 50-50 chance of winning. So that's my final expectation, barring a new round of polling literally in the next 24 hours, which we probably will get. If Youngkin remains ahead, even if it's by 0.1 in the aggregate, he has a better than 50-50 chance of winning the election in Virginia. Being demoralized, as some people are, and rambling about how he can't win because the Dems will cheat. Aha! You got to remember, there was a case decision only about a month and a half ago. You have to have a signature witness in order to turn in a mail-in ballot. It's the election there is not particularly fortified. So yes, this will be at least fairer than it could have been. It is possible for Youngkin to win. There will always be shenanigans, which is why you need higher turnout. If Youngkin has more supporters and they're turning out at higher numbers, it'd be really difficult, I think, for them to do the ballot printer go brr thing. They might try. We'll see what happens. First and foremost, keep in mind down below there will be a pinned comment if you're watching this video on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. I make several exclusive videos a day. Today I might either do 2 or 3. It depends because I've got several extra political videos and several occult videos lined up. So I've got a hodgepodge here I can choose from. Maybe I'll have to flip a fucking coin. But this story is funny because I'm seeing news pieces. I'm sure that they're already pre-written, by the way, outcome stories and preemptive autopsies of both campaigns should they lose. One of the big things I see for Mcauliffe is that the Democrats are going to throw him under the bus and say, no, this isn't a wider problem within the Dem Party. Biden has defended critical race theory. Psaki calls it a conspiracy theory if you bring it up. Virtually all the Democrats support the notion of stripping parental rights out of education. They don't like the ability of people to homeschool. They want to put a lot of money into the educational system without getting much of an outcome from the educational system. All of them have done this, or the vast plurality of them. They're going to try to frame it as though it's just, well, Mcauliffe made a poo-poo. Mcauliffe made an oopsie. It's not the party's problem. The party's not massively dysfunctional, with down-ballot races and state gubernatorial races being hampered by Joe Biden mainly. We're not losing control of the border counties because of the border policy, where Kamala enjoys something like a 23% approval rating, as borders are. It's not because of inflation. It's not because of Biden's plan, apparently, to potentially pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to illegal immigrants because they had their children separated from them by Trump, which is within the law, within the scope of our purview to pay them off for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It has nothing to do with shortages. It has nothing to do with Afghanistan. It has nothing to do with anything that Biden or any other Dem has done. It is just Terry Mcauliffe. He happened to be a shitty candidate. Now, The reality is that they've thrown enormous amounts of money into the race. You've got the heavy hitters. You have people like Obama going in to stump for him. The Democrats, in order to try to block Youngkin over the course of several weeks, made a bunch of blunders, if you're going to use that particular excuse to explain why Mcauliffe lost. There are also people, they're not going to blame singularly Mcauliffe. There are other people that are setting up, I think, to say, well, it's because the Democrats they're not winning because they're boring. They're not appealing to the right groups of people, which is partially correct. The panacea that they'll prescribe for this is to leer off into the far left. Well, we should be listening to AOC. Look, all these younger Democrats, and they're all like socialists and stuff. That should be our future, but instead, Biden's being hamstrung by evil Joe Manchin and horrible Kirsten Sinema and all of these other people. So we need to abandon, the remnant of the party that understands negotiation and actual governance and go off into far left la-la land. So you're beginning to see all of these sort of almost preemptive, why Terry McAuliffe lost so badly. How could he possibly have lost? Well, it was his fault. He wasn't left enough. He went too far left. It's the party's fault. It's not the party's fault. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of all of these things. The fact is that he wouldn't have gotten hit so hard on education if it hadn't been for the Democratic Party's particular proposals and its mollycoddling of far leftoids that love CRT. But Terry McAuliffe did, in the end, choose to take the bait. He did choose to defend critical race theory, and then he's got his now famous quip, which might be the career-sinking quote of all, which is, no, I don't think parents should be involved in their kids' education, or shouldn't be in control of their kids' education. Well, you just lost every homeschooler in the state. You probably just lost every private-schooled family in the state. You just lost a proportion of parents that have their kids in public school in the state. That's a lot of people. Keep in mind, plenty of those are Democrats, too. The partisan types, less likely to abandon Terry McAuliffe. They'll just chalk it up to a mistake. Oh, he misspoke or something. There are a lot of independents that fall into that crowd, too. Hundreds of thousands of people that probably would have been more likely to vote for McAuliffe abandon him. We can see this in the poll trajectory. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, tomorrow is the Virginia election. I do encourage everyone, if you're eligible there to vote, turn out and vote. Yes, I've endorsed Youngkin. Again, it's basically more like the other guy sucks and Youngkin is tolerable than Youngkin is some great kahuna of nobility or anything. But tolerable is better than sucks completely. And it'd be funny to watch the Dems melt down, even if it's just close. The fact that McAuliffe was leading by near double digits and would win in a scraper is going to have them scrambling. Oh, it's a Pyrrhic victory. It's barely a victory. Yeah, it doesn't really even count. We need to learn what's wrong with the party at large and why this is happening. The Dem partisan types, though, they'll throw McAuliffe under the bus. They don't want to admit there's a bigger problem within the party. That's about all. Peace out.